ADHD always has concurrent, what are the words? Concurrent other mental health, let's say, challenges, right? So most likely, someone with ADHD will be on the autism spectrum, will have conduct disorder, opposite something, something. There's quite a number of things, right? And in his case, yes, he was on the spectrum, right? And his case, like for him, how that showed, like his autism was, if something doesn't go right, if something doesn't go as planned, and he hasn't imagined that, getting him to do it would be absolutely impossible. So I remember in P2, he could hardly read. I mean, hardly. Like the boy is there. The ball is,
The
things like
basics.
that, right? And remember, because we had to keep changing schools a lot because of his behavior, many they'd be like, no, this child should be in P1. I'm like, what?
For you to give yourself of him and be the best version of a mother that you can be, you also need to get your
Yeah.
shit together.
Yeah. And the
So
only reason why I can sit here doing this is
Yeah.
because of that. So I had a turning point where I had to get my shit together, indeed. I could tell I was at the end.
how would you describe yourself to a stranger?
Oh, wow. How would I describe myself to a stranger? I always say, first, I'm a mother. And then second, in terms of work, I am very passionate about bringing spaces to life, about making people happy through different experiences, in terms of tourism and things like that. But how to define myself in a sentence is something that I've always struggled with. Do you feel like you are intentional about how you live your life?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Intentional. Yeah. Previously not, but now, yeah.
If confidence was a product you could buy, would you buy it? And which area of your life would you apply it the most? So who am I asking? You. You. I choose you.
Definitely I'd buy it. I think every area of my life.
For many of us who are parents, the biggest worry is to think you are actually taking care of a child and you think you've figured them out or figured out what they like, what they don't like, or you figured out what some of the challenges they're going through. And some of the children might not necessarily express themselves. But how do you, as a parent, figure out if your child has mental health challenges? That's the conversation we're having today on Mind Your Head.
Good. I've gotten a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you, as my co-host, well done.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have beef. Almost every day I see content of you sharing with which community, where you are, what. Why don't you call me?
We're going to go for the next one together. You've been very busy with the lions.
Okay, fine. All right. And our guest today, this week, is Laura Kagame. Laura, good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, both of you.
Laura is a big advocate for mental health, but also be sharing a personal experience with us on how to identify and deal with a child with mental health challenges. So let's begin from just sharing a little bit of your story. I know about it, but I don't think I can articulate it the way you would. So let's
Okay.
begin there.
So, first of all, asking me to share a little bit is always very hard. But yes, I am a mother of a 12-year-old boy, a single mom, but with an extremely supportive family, right? So, my story in this case, in terms of how a parent can tell and things like that, just to talk about the genesis of this. About 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I reached the peak of, a lot of mental health issues. But when I came out of it, I just felt it so strongly. My calling was to just start sharing my story because it literally became, how many others out there struggling with this, and maybe their journey could be cut short. Like you don't have to get to my age or let's say my son's age with us, while you're still fumbling like that. So that's when I became really passionate about sharing. But so my son is very he's a naughty boy, right? But just your typical, I was very naughty as well. So it just became, like mother, like son like mother, But from the time he went to his first school, he would never sit down. He was always in the teacher's this, and but then everyone was like, okay, he's just naughty, he's just this and that. So there were so many telltale signs. There's so much I could have done, right? Along the way.
Can you be a little bit specific when you say he was doing this and that, he was naughty?
Because we could have our
Right.
for my sons doing
Yeah.
that, and we think it's normal.
My son,
Okay.
instead of sleeping at midnight, that's his peak. That is his peak of
He's
being
all over the
Yes.
house.
being alive until 3 a.m. I could say that is naughty, but if you could be a little bit specific.
Okay, so a little bit more specific. And I need to say that many people listening to these kind of talks about mental health, they just hear one thing and like, that must be it. It's a whole combination of different things that involve backgrounds of both parents and whatnot. So first, no self-diagnosis here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this is just a conversation. So with Shama, when he went to school for the first time at about 3, he could literally hardly sit down. I mean, when I say hardly, I mean even through a sentence, let's say, right? They everyone's going this way, he wants to go that way. And then so many things like just basically never being with the other kids, right? Never listening to instructions. His handwriting, like just he took so long to write as well as the others, and not even as well, just at least for you to be able to read it. Now, Shema's case is usually the opposite of very many. For him, he spoke really fast. He said walking. Do you know that you're a parent? Are you a parent?
Yes.
Yes. The immunization at 10 months.
Yes.
Shema was the only baby, not just running, sitting up properly.
10 months?
Yes.
Wow.
Sprinting and
Well, that's a
very
special kid.
firm. Yes, So just so many things. He did so many things so quickly. He was always, too fast to. But at the age of, let's say, 4, I started to feel like now that's when he was in Mbara, I was away. And then now at the age of 4, we brought him here, and it was school after school. You won't believe he went to about 3 different schools in a year. That means every term. And the teachers would literally be like, but we can't. And for us, it would be like, you guys are just the ones who don't know
So
how to
let's
do
see.
it.
Problem.
We were not listening.
I know a school you have beef with, will not mention it. But when I mentioned it for my son, you are like,
Yes, but on the contrary, very many of them, I actually wanted to go back and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because you didn't know what the problem was.
Yeah,
then.
and I didn't listen to them.
And you put it on them.
Yes, yes, completely, 100%. So it's just that those telltale signs that were quite many, and we took so long to really go to a professional because of that thing. A lot of my family would kept saying, no, he's just a naughty kid. No, just give it time. You're a first time mom. What do you know? Those kind of things, and they mean well. For them, most African parents, I'll say, fear to label their child something.
Yes.
So they will continue buying time, looking forward. They'll try everything.
which is the exact thing you went through.
Yes.
Until later.
Yes, until it became so obvious, right? This one particular school we went to, the principal was a person that my parents knew anyway. So she had to put my dad aside and say, you know what? I know you're not going to believe this. I know I've made an appointment. You're going. It had to be Chifuran. And it had to be someone who was his age that he would listen to and not argue with. These are the teachers, my friend.
At what
He'd
point
have
did
walked out in the middle of that.
At what point did it become bad?
At what point was like, let's say when he was 7, so what I'm talking about here is ADHD, right? Maybe I'll ADHD and a combination of other things, which maybe I'll talk about later. But that makes you see, when you have that attention deficit disorder, it's not just that bouncing around that you see, but it's also the mind not settling down enough for you to even hear or learn anything. So you start lagging behind in class. And that's exactly what started happening. So I remember in P2, he could hardly read. I mean, hardly. Like, the boy is there. The ball is,
The
things
basics.
like that, right? And remember, because we had to keep changing schools a lot because of his behavior, many they'd be like, no, this child should be in P1. I'm like, what? The last straw was now 8, which thankfully that's when COVID came in. I'd never been so happy about COVID. It helped us take a break. And to figure this
we don't
thing
have to
out.
deal with this.
Yeah, so it was just things like that's when it became really. Now it was so obvious how behind he was. It was also so obvious how the jumpy issues and the misconduct and his interpretation of things, his emotional reactions. It was just totally different from other kids. It was now so obvious that. For example, let's say even certain school, let's say parties, birthday parties, there were now some parents who'd be like, oh, but make sure he comes with someone else. It became even obvious to others, that he had to be.
Like he was just not a normal kid, but a special
Yes.
kid.
How at the point when the other parents were telling you make sure he comes with someone else, did you know or had you discovered it, and how did it affect you mentally? Or
First of all, when they were telling me that, I already knew. I never ever sent him anywhere without anyone. Like that when we knew, right? I knew all this. It's just, man, there's levels of denial. And parents, their denial is always plus, like completely. So I knew there was something wrong, but not to the extent of giving it a name. Like I just thought I just thought I had to learn to discipline him better. I was a bad mother. So I went through all those things, which is really terrible because then you end up stressing yourself, you get so much anxiety, you get so many issues that end up affecting the child even more. It becomes a very
And affecting
vicious
you.
cycle. So of course, eventually I even started only taking him for parties where the people were close enough to me. And so I'd start telling all these lies. Even when it was like a party in school, I'd like I'd kuzabza him. Would go to a movie, go to a play area, go to something like that. I always had to create something else. Like I have always performed and told lies to Shema.
Just,
You get what I mean?
just to cover him.
Just to cover that.
We
know?
recently celebrated Mother's Day.
Yeah.
You guys recently celebrated Mother's Day, not we.
Yes.
And I saw you post him and being proud of what you guys have done together to get to the stage that he is. It seemed like a reflection of what you have gone through. And she'll ask the question, how did that affect you?
How does this affect me?
Having
Yeah.
to, deal with the whole world seeing Shema in such a state, and you, the mother, blaming yourself. Am I a bad mother? Am I doing things wrong? How has that affected you?
So I lived with, this was like over, let's say 8 years, 9, a lot of shame. I was constantly ashamed because I blamed every single action of his on me. I just thought I didn't know how to discipline him. Then the anxiety levels of always wondering what next. The school's always calling. I keep saying even up to now, answering a phone call is, I think everyone who knows me has suffered that. I will not answer your calls just because of that. That's by the proper PTSD. I had to have therapy of like, you can press yes, I won't. It's just that because there's always doom on the other side, right? So this went on for so long. I became a wrecking ball of anxiety and ended up in the throes of addiction, right? Ended up turning to drinking a lot more and more. His conduct disorder, his behavior at home would be so bad that sometimes the maid would even call and be like, don't come. When you come, you'll make it worse. You know how children get worse around their moms, like that's cheju. Eh? And so I'd only have to I would make sure I get home after he's slept. Can you imagine that? And this was obviously when he was younger. So I got in the habit of having to sit somewhere. Now, if you're sitting somewhere, right, usually you're sitting somewhere, you're not sitting in a church, you're not sitting in work, you're sitting in a bar. And obviously, the reason you're sitting there is because you can't get home, because when you get home, your child gets worse. And now, obviously, you failed to handle this. You even start wondering what the maid thinks of you, what other people think of you. A shame spiral like that. And obviously, tequila has been known to help some of that.
To cure some of the...
So
But it wasn't one, then it wasn't two, then it wasn't three, but then a continuous cycle of all this.
Like all this.
Where are you now on this journey? Where are you now
So
with Shema?
yeah, so like I said, COVID came to the rescue. And in that time, we ended up going to a doctor for a diagnosis. Also because here we just hadn't found, there was just nothing being talked about that. Anyway, I hadn't found any help here. So we went to one in Nairobi, and my God, my mom and I cried for so long because this doctor was telling us everything from child. But I'll never forget this doctor. He really said, how did you guys not see this? Can you imagine? At some point I need to write
Like
you
it
now,
was
I'm
something
do not
obvious.
tell this to mothers. Like you're already feeling like shit, you know? So yeah, so from that point on, we got a proper diagnosis with so many things. So ADHD always has concurrent, what are the words? Concurrent other mental health, let's say, challenges, right? So most likely, someone with ADHD will be on the autism spectrum, will have conduct disorder, opposite something something. There's quite a number of things, right? And in his case, yes, he was on the spectrum, right? And his case, like for him, how that showed, like his autism was, if something doesn't go right, if something doesn't go as planned, and he hasn't imagined that, getting him to do it would be absolutely impossible. Then the temper tantrums and things like that, you know, those are the things that got him, should I say, kicked out of schools, you know, and they just politely tell you, here, we can't, you know, he needs to be in another type of school. So, of course, you see how they were trying to tell
Yes.
us,
Yeah.
another
So they
type
knew.
of school. Shema is different for us. Different how you get?
But this also
But yeah.
highlighted why our schools also do not, not just in Uganda, do not have personnel with
Yeah. The
special,
trained,
trained
Yes.
personnel
Yes.
for special kids.
Now they're trying. Now you know they're trying, and I know quite a number of schools that are actually sending their teachers for training for this, right? So they can be more inclusive. But yeah, so after that, then we managed to get him into the right schools. What was even more traumatizing for me was we got back here, and with his, I'll never forget, it was a 40-page report. We went to 3 different schools. I mean, the best of the best in terms of like international schools that we thought, you know,
You would
could
understand.
have this, right? And none of them could. The one that could, what was there? There was something. There was a reason why they couldn't take him on, right? I think he was too young. They started from a certain age, you know, something like that. And so we ended up in Nairobi. So he had to go to Nairobi to boarding school. Yeah, for me, now for him he was getting better. For me now that just
Yeah. Because you'd want to walk that recovery journey with him,
with
right?
him, yes. So imagine I've just discovered this about him, and
And then you
now
have to let him
I
go.
have to go and hand him over to some, you know, in a dorm and with other teachers. And of course, the phone didn't stop ringing because he actually, I think, intentionally tried everything to get expelled. You know. And the most painful part, because now leaving him there, it would be like, Mommy, okay, I swear I'm going to be better. Because at that age, we couldn't explain to him. You can't explain to a
Yeah.
child any of this stuff, right? I'm going to be better. I promise I won't be misbehaving. So he looked at it as a punishment, you know, and things like that. So that was very, very hard for me. I literally stayed in an Airbnb next to that school for a while, had to get drugged out of there. I was a total mess.
Right. So
Yeah.
everything now, he's not yet a teenager.
He turns 13 next month.
And have you explained this to him?
Yes. So now at the age of when he turned 11, which is not too long, 11 and a half, just a year ago, actually.
Yeah.
Then we found it, you know, okay, I still feel like we're a bit too late, but so then he went to therapy here, but also because I had just found the right therapist here at Malachite Center, where they bring together children with ADHD and they have group sessions with them, they explain to them. So all this was explained to him. And even now we can actually talk about it. He watches his videos, he understands, and we have done everything possible to make sure that he understands that he's just different, he's differently abled. Like, it doesn't make him any less capable of doing anything that he wants to do.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah.
And how does he feel about you opening up about him? Because he's now,
Yeah.
you know, almost a teenager now.
Yeah.
But also, why did you choose to share this story?
So I chose to share the story because for anyone going through this, right, to know that they're not alone. This stuff is extremely isolating. Every mom going through this stuff actually thinks they're alone. Every mom with a child doing a lot of these things that I've talked about thinks they're you know, that it's just them,
Because
and
we're
that
not
they're
talking
also
about
doing
it.
something wrong. Do you get? So there could be several moms out there dying of shame and guilt and could turn to the wrong coping mechanisms like I did. You know, also there are now so many places that one can get help. You know, there are more centers now than there were when Shema was 5 or 6. So you can actually get help for this. But you asked how he feels. The first time Canary asked me about it, I said, okay, hold on. I actually talked to Shema about it. We actually had a discussion. I even showed him. I showed him this space. Yes, he looked. Yes, he actually watched it. And I asked him if I could share the story, and he said, "Okay." I even asked, "Is there something you wouldn't want me to share?" He said, "No." I said, "It's very okay." But now, at some point, I remember like over the Christmas holiday, we're like, "Oh God, maybe we shouldn't have told this child." Hi, well, I have ADHD. Like he just goes, jazzing about it. So
Like he's proud of the label.
very, and then now kids, he can use the internet. So that day he sent me a video of an interview with Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah talking about his ADHD, and I don't know who. Now the algorithm. Once you see that, it'll show you everyone else. So he started watching them and showing and saying, "So I could also be this. I could become this." Anyway, it
But
real
maybe
flipped.
that's
Oh,
a
he's
good
now
thing.
too proud. Of course, it's a really good
I think
thing.
the same thing that we were talking about a few minutes ago about looking at the positive
Yes.
out of every situation
Yeah.
and what do I have to learn out
Yeah.
of it instead of sulking, because you could have had another situation of dealing with him getting into depression from the news that you have given him.
Yes.
But he chose to make the most out of it.
Yes.
I'm going to read about it. I'm going to learn about it. I'm
Yes.
going to embrace it
Yes,
and
but it
see
was
how
also
to walk
guided.
that journey.
It was
Yeah.
also this center that I discovered. My God, I go singing about it at the. Imagine what it is to sit with other kids that have this,
Yeah, and share.
and you're talking, you're sharing, and when you're alone, when a therapist is talking to a child, especially a child that age, alone, they're not going to be listening. It's like as if I've been singled out. But when that therapist is talking to 13 kids that are like you will listen, because then you even feel fake. If you're there staring elsewhere, but all these people are listening, you will listen and you'll learn more. Then you also learn, okay, this is not just me, as in I'm not that special. Like this is a normal thing, So she even has them on a WhatsApp group. Yes, kids of today, my friend, they're all on. Yeah,
WhatsApp
so
group.
it's different now. It's really different. So he's okay with it. He will even share it.
Right.
Did you get what I mean?
Canary, I think I am the biggest advocate of not of filling my cup before I give to others.
Yeah.
And for me, in this, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at myself as a mother. I always say there's me in everything before I do it. Before I
Yeah.
start my week, before I start my day, where am I filling my cup in the day? Because then I'm able to give of myself to
Yeah.
other people, including my children.
Yes.
And there's a point where you mentioned that you started blaming yourself, right? Started blaming yourself, started thinking, what am I doing wrong? Like any mother. Then the alcohol, and how did you, should I say, get yourself together again? Because for you to give yourself of him and be the best version of a mother that you can be, you also need to get your
Yeah.
shit together.
Yeah, and the
So
only reason why I can sit here doing this is
Yeah.
because of that. So I had a turning point where I had to get my shit together. Indeed, I could tell I was at the end. My anxiety issues were through the roof. Shema's issues had become so like back to back that something just switched off in me. Like I couldn't even hug him. I couldn't. It was so terrible. And that's when I knew that I needed to get help, right? At that point, of course, I was drinking way more. Like it was now just a coping mechanism. I didn't want to feel anything. So I had to make sure I was always high, And obviously, you can imagine what conflict that brought about in my life. Then the guilt. Now, the other guilt and shame I had talked about, now it's even times 100 because on top of all that, now you're high and, making everything worse. So I had to get help. I actually went to a treatment center and got help. I seek therapy. I did all those things. I'm on medication for my anxiety. I have a proper routine that I have to, do. I'm working out. I am eating well. I am all those wellness things. I do them not because they're nice and trendy, but because I must. For me to actually remain like this,
They help
I
you
must.
and Shema.
Yes.
All right. So now we're going to introduce you to a game.
Okay.
Just that about this game, you can't say no.
Okay.
And now this is the connection moment.
So Laura, with who and where do you feel a sense of belonging the most?
With who? With who? A person. I have to choose
Yes.
a person. That would be my mom.
Okay.
Do I have to say why?
No.
No?
Where?
Okay.
Where and
Oh,
why?
and then the where. The where is usually when we're at one of our hotels, right? And then the why, because, with her, I can breathe around my mom. She understands me fully, you know. We also really co-parent Shema together, like so well. Like anything, I'll send her a message. So I really feel a deep sense of belonging. We also share the same passion for hospitality. So we just flow from work talk to Shema talk to, even I can even tell I have a crush on a guy, this or that, whatever it is, right? So I feel extremely safe there. I feel like I belong. And then we're, of course, at one of the hotels because then we're in our element together. It's so special to be able to share a work bond like that with your most special person, Yeah.
That's beautiful.
What comes to mind when you think about unforgiveness? What are the things you are not ready to let go?
Let me think. I think I might have shared that with you. A particular school that treated my Shema in a way that was terrible. And up to now, right? And with the program I'm in for recovery, right? For addiction recovery, you cannot carry any resentments. This one, as in I've tried, I even reached that point. I'm like, yeah, no, maybe not this year, Yes, so that I still carry it.
But do you think at some point you will be ready to let go? It doesn't have to be now, but at some point you will.
No, I think I would have to first see action on their part.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have to be through action because I follow them. I would have to see that they're now more inclusive and better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your card.
Now I can ask. Yeah. If confidence was a product you could buy, would you buy it? And which area of your life would you apply it the most? So who am I asking? You. I choose you.
Definitely, I'd buy it. I think every area of my life, work, as a mother, as a businesswoman. I think in every area of my life. Yeah.
I have to believe confidence is at the center of it all. Do you feel like you are intentional about how you live your life?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Intentional. Yeah. Previously not, but now, yeah.
Okay.
Who are you? How would you describe yourself to a stranger?
Oh, wow. How would I describe myself to a stranger? I always say, first, I'm a mother. And then second, in terms of work, I am very passionate about bringing spaces to life, about making people happy through different experiences, in terms of tourism and things like that. But how to define myself in a sentence is something that I've always struggled with. In fact, I always like asking people to do it for me. I don't know. I'm a mother. I'm passionate about tourism. And I love people. I put people first. That's it.
If you had a week to yourself, would you prefer to spend it online consuming content or offline playing board games?
Offline playing board games. 100%. 100%.
Why are you doubting?
Even just doing this makes me really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your next question.
Yes. Who am I asking?
You can
Canary.
choose. You can choose.
I'll ask her. What comes to your mind when you think about unforgiveness, and what are the things you're not ready to let go of?
First of all, unforgiveness. I really hold grudges. Before we started shooting today, the producer was telling me, Sheila, you need to learn to let go. So yeah, unforgiveness for me is a place I'm trying to work on for some things because I know I need to do it to be able to heal.
On a scale of 1 to 10, would you rate yourself? How would you rate your self-esteem and why?
Right now, I think I'm at a 6 out of 10.
Why?
Why? That used to be like 2. So for me, 6 is a big win.
You should be clapping your hands.
Right. So it might sound low, but it used to be like 2. Why do I rate myself at a 6 right now? Like this is the highest, right? So the question would then be, why am I at my highest now? Because of these things that I'm doing. I can now sit in front of everyone and tell my story. I can show up without going through, like, my social anxiety isn't as bad. I don't. My imposter syndrome isn't chronic. Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the best I've ever been in terms of self-esteem.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
The last question.
What is your relationship with alcohol, and what is your opinion on consumption, on its consumption in your community?
So my relationship with alcohol is I know that it is that devil that when I let in destroys everything. That's what it is, right? It makes my life very unmanageable. And yeah, what the community?
Yeah, your opinion on its consumption in your community.
Well, of course, being Ugandan, living in Uganda, we drink a lot. Ugandans drink a lot. It is everywhere. It is embedded in our culture, in everything in society. So trying to stay sober here is not so easy, but it is what it is.
They are happy people, they say.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you very much for being bold to share your story.
Thank you too for letting me.
Thank you, Sheila, for being bold to share some of the things the audience did not know about.
Anything to help someone out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember you sharing your video with the AA
Yes.
and someone asking, but do you drink?
You see my response.
I love the response.
I'm curious, what was the response?
No, I said I'm trying to help people out there that need the help.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's been a pleasure having you here on the podcast. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you for coming and showing up.
Always show up. That's the lesson from today. And always seek help. Seek help when you feel like you need it. Don't self-diagnose because it's not recommended. This has been Mind Your Head podcast because it's all you've got.